Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Azeroth Daily for the 14th of Feb 2011. My name is TotalBiscuit, bringing you your daily dose of WoW news and comments. In the headlines today, the latency system in the game has been updated as described by forum support agent Briani. This is rather a long post and a little bit complicated for some people, but to summarize, you now have two latency displays instead of one. One's called Home and the other is called World. Home data basically covers things like the chat systems and the auction house, and world data is in reference to connection to the Blizzard servers, which cover everything else, i.e. combat, NPCs, mobs, castings, professions, etc., etc. And apparently going into a highly populated zone like a capital city will drastically increase the amount of data being sent over that connection, and it will raise the reported latency. Now, again, this feature isn't exactly all that useful to you, but it is useful to Blizzard in diagnosing connection problems, and Briani mentions a number of reasons why you might be having connection issues, so I would recommend that you go check that out if you're suffering from any problems. The Blizzard art gallery has been updated with 3 pieces from the one and only Wrath of the Lich King. The one I'd like to highlight is this one right here, because it reveals that Maragar used to be called the Bone Guard boss. There you go, that was his code name. Kind of intriguing. Blizzard reports that a change they made to the game, specifically dealing with instance latency in patch 4.0.6, has now been rolled back. It was unfortunate because apparently this caused around 99% of users to get significantly lower latency in instances, but around 1% of users were getting significantly higher latency, which made the game unplayable. They have now rolled that back, and they're looking for other ways to try and implement it, but it does demonstrate that Blizzard is not going to implement changes that, while beneficial to the majority, negatively impact the minority to the point where they can't actually play anymore. One has to wonder if that's what's actually holding the game back in terms of the engine and graphics, because some people are using computers made of wood. Bashiok is reporting that they're in the process of putting a number of hotfixes into the game to deal with certain class balance issues, including Shadow Power, which is being nerfed by 10%, Moon Fury, which is being nerfed by 5%, and Raging Blow, which is being nerfed by 20% at max levels. Blizzard have stated that they've been monitoring the performance of those 3 specs since the launch of patch 4.0.6, and their conclusion is they are currently too powerful. They're also looking at nerfing aimed shot and compensating hunters through a buff 2 aspect of the Hawk. And some good news. There was an email a few days ago to the Mailbox, as you might be aware, in regards to the Exalted title, and specifically because they were going to require 10 extra reputations in order to get the title back. It would literally disappear from those who'd already got it. After a lot of discussion, Bashiok has announced that they have reverted that, and you will get the Exalted title once again at 40 titles. The achievements for 45 and 50 are still in the game, but they do not reward you with any titles at this time. And our good friend Mr Voletron has released a new remix, which is available over on his page. I've got it running kind of in the background right there. I'm not going to run the whole thing, but you can go check it out by clicking the link in the description below this video. And with that, it's time for your Daily Blues. Roundhead provides what I would not call a wall of text, more like a tower of text on the subject of proposed Death Knight changes, and daxxari uses it as an opportunity to clarify Blizzard's intentions regarding some of the recent Death Knight changes. You might want to read this if you are a Death Knight. Indeed, I would recommend that every Death Knight actually has a look at it, since it is rather handy and indeed very constructive. For once, it's not just the blue that's being constructive. Indeed, I would go and read the OP as well, because he seems to know exactly what he's talking about. Go and have a look at that. Definitely worthwhile. And we have one right here that's been posted by Etherlocks in regards to getting a GM survey without a ticket response, which is a little bit odd. Nevalistis responds to this particular issue, and that's apparently a known issue, so if it happens to you, don't worry, it's got something to do with the limitations of the in-game mail system, and they apologize for any particular confusion. Game Masters are indeed responding to each and every petition submitted, although admittedly a lot of it will be with an automated form response. Just bear that one in mind. And with that, it's time for your daily grind. This is the conclusion to the Pamela Redpath line, and is a fairly epic battle called the Battle of Darrowshire. This is a multi-stage quest with a scripted battle going on in the middle of Darrowshire. You place the relic bundle down, and with the incantations of Chromie, you are able to engage in the Battle of Darrowshire. While you are not technically able to change the outcome of the battle, and the place remains absolutely destroyed, So no phasing, no amazing changes to Darrowshire. You are able to provide forgiveness for the corrupted Joseph Redpath and make everything right with the world of the spirits of Darrowshire. So there you go. Definitely worth having a look at. And you get a nice blue reward at the end. And bear in mind, this is also a requirement of the full caravan achievement. This is a little bit weird because you are actually supposed to somehow recruit Pamela Redpath, who is a dead kid, into your caravan, which you can't do, but you get the credit if you finish all of these quests. You do not get the credit if you don't. I don't know why it's set up the way that it is, but that's the case. So if you're having any problems getting full caravan, that might be why. And with that, it's time for your weekly feature. This is Machinimondays. Well, it's Valentine's Day, ladies and gentlemen, and I didn't want to post the Love Rocket because I think everyone in the world has freaking seen it, so let's go back a little bit, and I'll show you something from Cranius. It goes by the name of The Story, and this is quite simply a WoW-themed love song, very appropriate for the day, and excellent visuals as provided by the Machinimonday Legs. It was a collab between Cranius and Legs. Very nicely put together. Lyrics and song I really cannot fault in any way, shape, or form, and the visual style is typically understated, as you would generally expect from a Cranius production. I'm a big fan of that, and the fact that he does not excessively overuse a bunch of special effects and After Effects related stuff. So it's very nicely put together. I can't really find a fault with it, honestly, on those particular criteria, and on that basis, I am forced to give it no less than 5 trolls out of 5. So go and watch it for your Valentine's-themed machinima. Yes, indeed. And with that, it's time for the mailbox. This one comes in from Alendi, who says, I was wondering what you thought of guild bank resources and its use for raid repairing. Currently, I'm in a guild that I raid with 3 to 4 times weekly. The other day, I walked into the bank, which of course is entirely inaccessible to me, and noticed that we have over 200,000 gold in there. I previously raided with guilds that use this surplus for raid repairs to mitigate the cost of individual repair bills that result from the group learning curve. I think the guild should pay all such repair bills, while the individuals worry about their food buffs and flasks. Your thoughts? Well, my thoughts is, if they've stockpiled 200,000 gold, then yes, they should absolutely be using it for at least raid repairs. What else are you going to use it for? I think the thing about having a guild bank stock, particularly now with the way that cash flow works and that it's generating money that wasn't there pre-Cataclysm, that guilds have to seriously consider what they're going to do with it. And the first most logical thing would be to enable guild bank repairs. It seems like a fairly logical thing to do. I think that if you're going to control a guild like that, and bear in mind, obviously, I'm the leader of a fairly large guild, one has to be extremely clear about what the acceptable uses of the guild bank are from the very start, so that you don't have people questioning, well, why is the 200,000 gold sitting there? It's not like it can earn any interest. And indeed, that would be absolutely correct. If they're going to save money for something, they should let the guild know. If they're not going to save it for something, then they should absolutely be allowing the guild to use it, because the guild is what generated it in the first place. At the end of the day, it would make sense to give it back. This one comes in from Canadian Boy, who I have to assume is from Canada, and says that his concern is about the AFKers in PvP. I've been PvPing a lot in the past month, trying to build up my PvP set. However, I've noticed an increased amount of AFKers in the battlegrounds. It isn't so bad if everyone reports them for being AFK, but I've noticed that no one is actually willing to do so. It's a pretty terrible situation for many reasons to have someone AFK in a battleground, but it's even worse, especially on specific battleground weekends. I'm wondering what you think about AFKs in PvP and how you think Blizzard could or should fix them instead of depending on others to report them. Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? I have to wonder, actually, if it's possible to put in any kind of more major deterrents, because as far as I'm concerned, going into a battleground and then not participating in it in order to gain free honor or free marks or whatever the hell they're gaining from it is paramount to exploiting. It is. I mean, it's the same as, say, the exploit over with TotalBiscuit. You remember the running across the bridge thing? Again, you're getting points for doing nothing, which is not the intention of the game. It's not in the spirit of the game. It's harmful to people that want to play the game in the way that they're supposed to play it. So yeah, to me, that is an exploit. In which case, people that do that should be treated like exploiters are, i.e. suspended or banned, or indeed have those points completely removed. From a technical aspect, I'm fairly sure Blizzard is doing all that it can, really. If people are not reporting guys in Battlegrounds, that really is a problem, and I have to wonder why they're doing that. Maybe it's because they think it doesn't do anything, which, again, seems to me that's something Blizzard has to deal with. It's kind of the same thing as reporting people that are not RPing on RP servers. It's not like Blizzard does anything about it, so why even bother? So I wonder if that's a similar situation. Maybe Blizzard is not doing enough to be visually combating this, and as such, people have lost faith in it, so they don't bother with the reporting system. A little bit of social engineering required from Blizzard there, I feel. This one comes in from Lewis, who says, something I've noticed in Cataclysm is that Blizzard seem to have been making classes less and less diverse. For example, there are now 3 classes with a heroism equivalent, and they've made all healing reduction spells, such as Mortal Strike, reduce healing by the same amount. I think that this has made it so that there is less reason to have a variety of classes in a group, as you no longer need specific classes to get their bonuses. Again, with the example of heroism, that was one of the reasons Shaman got picked for groups, as it separated them from the rest of the classes. Although there's still a large amount of difference from one class to the next, I think that Blizzard should have tried to keep the classes as diverse as possible, as to give people more of a reason to, like I said before, pick specific classes. What are your thoughts on the matter, or am I just being stupid? Well, you're not being stupid, certainly. You're talking about class homogenization, which has actually been an issue running since mid-TBC, now all the way through Wrath and indeed through the Cataclysm. It's something I'm very concerned about as well, honestly. It takes away the individuality of particular classes. Back in TBC, for instance, we had a buff that people like to refer to as the Mana Battery, which was given to Shadow Priests, and Shadow Priests got a lot of prominence that they didn't have in vanilla as a result of getting something kind of unique. They then gave that to a bunch of other classes, and again, we see stuff like Bloodlust/Heroism given to other classes. Why, as a mage, would I want that? Please tell me this. One of the 3 abilities that I was supposed to get in Cataclysm turns out to be a exact clone of something that someone's had for, what now, 4 years? That sucks. Hey, that really, really does suck badly. And here's the thing. Blizzard thinks that bring the player, not the class, is an acceptable philosophy. And I don't necessarily wholeheartedly disagree with them, but I think they are not seeing the bigger picture, and they're not seeing the other side of that particular coin, which is that if everyone can do exactly the same thing, then they're just going to bring the class, assuming they have this kind of availability, that either does the most damage or heals the most efficiently or whatever, because that's what min-maxing comes down to. Let's just say, for instance, that mages were not doing as much damage as enhancement shamans, but they're both DPS classes, so you have to choose between the mage and the shaman for who comes to provide you with the Bloodlust/Heroism. Well, you're going to pick the Shaman, aren't you? Because they do more damage. You know, that's their primary role. And since Blizzard is incapable of actually balancing the classes completely, and indeed I think that's actually an impossible task, but whatever the case, a min-maxing guild will bring the one that is most efficient at that particular task. So actually, their plan to make sure that the guilds and the raids are inclusive of people actually backfires in that regard, because guilds then turn around and say, oh, well, you can do the same thing as this guy, but you do less damage, so we're going to take him instead. So in reality, people end up getting excluded anyway, and as a fairly significant byproduct, the variety of the game and the feeling that people get of individual identity when picking their class is significantly diminished. The removal of variety from any game is a bad thing. There is no question about that. And indeed, when people feel undervalued, they tend to not stay playing the game. Okay, folks, that's me done for Azeroth Daily today, but before I go, I'd like to tell you about this week's Postcards from Azeroth contest, which is going to be Valentine's themed in a small capacity. I would like you to take a picture of the thing you most love within the game. I don't care what it is. Maybe it's a sword, maybe it's a big pile of furry critters, maybe it's a place. Just post it, and indeed post it on the Facebook with a reason. Tell me why it is that this is the thing that you most love within the game, and the best screenshots will be showcased on Friday's show. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll see you next time.